The cold October wind howled through the trees, sending shivers down Olivia's spine as she tightened her jacket around her. The flashlight in her hand flickered, casting erratic beams of light on the narrow dirt path ahead. "Are we really doing this?" she asked, glancing back at the others. "It's Halloween," Chris replied with a grin, his voice carrying an edge of excitement. "What better night to finally check out Devil's Hollow?" "Yeah, because getting cursed sounds like a great time," Olivia muttered, rolling her eyes. She wasn't alone in her hesitation. Jenny, the youngest of the group, kept close to Olivia, her wide eyes darting nervously at every rustling sound. Ben and Marcus, on the other hand, led the way with a kind of reckless confidence that came from years of egging each other on. The five friends had grown up hearing stories about Devil's Hollow. Parents warned their kids to stay away, claiming the area was cursed after a series of unexplained disappearances decades ago. Some said it was haunted by the spirits of those who had vanished. Others whispered about a dark presence that preyed on anyone foolish enough to enter. The stories varied, but they all ended the same. No one came back the same, if they came back at all. "Look," Ben said, pointing ahead. The group emerged into a small clearing, dominated by an ancient, weathered stone altar at its center. Around it, the trees seemed to close in, their gnarled branches forming a canopy that blocked out the moonlight. "Creepy as hell," Marcus said, but his grin didn't waver. He pulled out his phone, the screen casting a pale glow on his face as he started recording. "This is perfect. Midnight Pact at Devil's Hollow. That'll get us 1 million views." "Don't be stupid," Olivia snapped. "We're here to prove it's just a bunch of stupid stories, not to make a spectacle." "Then you're gonna love this," Marcus said, his flashlight landing on something half buried in the dirt near the altar. He knelt down, brushing away the leaves and revealing an ancient, leather-bound book. The cover was cracked and worn, the faint outline of strange symbols etched into its surface. "That's probably nothing," Jenny said quickly, backing away. "Let's just go." "Are you kidding?" Chris said, picking up the book. "This is exactly what we came for. It's like something out of a horror movie." "Yeah, and those movies don't exactly end well," Olivia shot back. But Chris had already flipped it open, revealing pages filled with faded, spidery handwriting. The text was written in a language none of them recognized, but some sections had been translated into English. "The Midnight Pact," Chris read aloud. "To summon the spirit of the Hollow, place your hands upon the altar and speak its name. It will grant one wish to each participant, but beware, the pact is eternal. Breaking it will summon the spirit's wrath." "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard," Olivia said, folding her arms. "Who even writes stuff like this?" "Let's find out," Ben said with a smirk, stepping toward the altar. "No," Olivia snapped, grabbing his arm. "This isn't funny. Let's just leave." But the others were already gathering around the altar, curiosity and adrenaline overriding caution. "Come on, Liv," Chris said. "It's just a stupid game. What's the worst that could happen?" Reluctantly, Olivia joined them, her stomach churning with unease. The group placed their hands on the cold stone surface, and Chris cleared his throat, reading from the book. "We call upon the spirit of the Hollow," he intoned. "Grant us your favor, and we shall honor the pact." For a moment, nothing happened. The wind died down, leaving an eerie stillness in its wake. Then, the ground beneath them seemed to shudder, and a deep, resonant hum filled the air. Shadows coalesced around the altar, forming a vague, humanoid shape. Its presence was suffocating, its eyes glowing faintly with an otherworldly light. "State your wishes," the entity said, its voice a low, guttural rasp. The group stared in stunned silence, the reality of what they had done sinking in. Marcus was the first to speak. "I wish to be famous," he said, his voice trembling but resolute. "Granted," the entity replied. Its gaze shifted to Ben, who hesitated before saying, "I wish to never feel fear again." "Granted." One by one, the others made their wishes. Wealth, success, freedom from their insecurities. Olivia was the last, her mind racing as the entity turned to her. "I wish to keep my friends safe," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. The entity's glowing eyes seemed to bore into her, and for a moment, she thought it wouldn't answer. Then it spoke. "Granted." The shadowy form dissolved, leaving the group in stunned silence. "That was insane," Marcus said, breaking the silence. "Do you think it actually worked?" At first, it seemed like nothing had changed. They laughed nervously, brushing off the experience as a bizarre prank. But as the days passed, they realized their wishes had come true, in ways they never could have anticipated. Marcus's YouTube channel exploded in popularity overnight, but the constant scrutiny and pressure drove him to paranoia. Ben found himself unflinchingly fearless, but his recklessness put him in increasingly dangerous situations. Jenny's newfound wealth came with mysterious strings attached, while Chris's success alienated him from his family. And Olivia began to see things. Shadows that didn't belong, figures lurking just out of sight. The spirit's presence was everywhere, its influence growing stronger with each passing day. She realized the wishes weren't gifts, they were chains, binding them to the spirit's will. The breaking point came when Marcus vanished. The group found his apartment ransacked, his equipment destroyed, and his final video, a frantic, rambling monologue, ended with a chilling whisper, "The pact can't be broken." Desperate for answers, Olivia returned to the book, poring over its cryptic text. Hidden among the pages was a second ritual, a way to end the pact, but it required a sacrifice. She gathered the remaining friends, their fear and distrust palpable. "We have to do it," she said, her voice firm despite the terror in her heart. "And who do we sacrifice?" Ben asked, his eyes narrowing. "Because I'm not volunteering." The group devolved into arguments, their unity shattered by the spirit's manipulations. But as the entity's power grew, they had no choice. Returning to Devil's Hollow, they prepared the ritual, each of them carrying the weight of betrayal and survival. As the final incantation was spoken, the spirit appeared, its form more menacing than before. It demanded its price, and in the chaos, one of them made the ultimate choice, stepping forward to face their fate. The ritual ended, the pact broken, but at a cost none of them could bear. As they fled the hollow, the spirit's final words echoed in their minds. "The pact is eternal. You may escape, but you will never be free." The group's escape felt hollow, the air thick with regret and lingering fear. Olivia couldn't shake the memory of the sacrifice, the face of the friend they had lost forever etched into her mind. Days turned into weeks, and yet the whispers persisted. They were faint but unmistakable, as if the spirit were still watching, waiting for an opportunity to return. Jenny withdrew completely, her newfound wealth offering no solace. She claimed she could feel the spirit's touch in every shadow, every creak of her luxurious new home. Chris drowned himself in work, his success becoming an obsession that alienated him further from everyone he cared about. Ben, fearless and reckless, spiraled into danger, each brush with death leaving him unscathed but more unhinged. Olivia tried to hold them together, her wish to keep her friends safe becoming a cruel irony. The spirit's influence had fractured them, and the bonds they once shared felt irreparably broken. Yet she couldn't give up. Something about the spirit's words haunted her. "You may escape, but you will never be free." Driven by a desperate need for closure, Olivia returned to Devil's Hollow alone. The woods felt darker than before, the oppressive weight of the curse pressing down on her with every step. She found the altar untouched, the book still resting where they had left it. Flipping through its pages, she searched for anything they might have missed, any clue that could undo the damage. And then she saw it, a passage written in faded ink, almost invisible against the aged paper. It spoke of a third ritual, one that could sever the pact entirely. But it came with a dire warning. The spirit's power must be faced directly. Those who fail will be claimed. Olivia knew she couldn't do it alone. Gathering her courage, she reached out to the others. Convincing them to return was no easy task, their fear and resentment making them hesitant. But the promise of freedom, however slim, was enough to bring them back to the hollow. The final ritual required them to confront the spirit in its true form. As they chanted the incantation, the air grew colder, the ground trembling beneath their feet. The spirit emerged, its shape shifting and flickering like a living shadow. Its glowing eyes fixed on them, and Olivia felt an overwhelming wave of dread. "You dare defy the pact?" the spirit hissed, its voice echoing with anger and malice. The group stood their ground, their voices shaking but unbroken as they completed the ritual. The spirit's form began to waver, its power weakening under the weight of their defiance. But it didn't go down without a fight. Shadows lashed out, pulling them into a nightmarish vision of their darkest fears and regrets. Olivia saw the face of their lost friend, heard their voice pleading, accusing her of betrayal. She felt the weight of her guilt threaten to crush her, but she refused to give in. She focused on the ritual, her voice rising above the chaos. Finally, with a deafening roar, the spirit dissolved into nothingness, its presence vanishing like smoke in the wind. The oppressive weight lifted, and for the first time, the hollow felt empty. The group emerged from the woods battered but alive, their faces etched with relief and exhaustion. They had done it. The pact was broken. Yet the scars remained, a constant reminder of the price they had paid. Olivia looked back one last time, the hollow now silent and still. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing for certain. Some pacts should never be made, and some truths are better left buried.